I am very excited about today's video because we finally get to praise AEW's women's division. For far too long, AEW's women's division has been the measuring stick used to beat down AEW with. But things are finally beginning to look up. So why was AEW's women's division so bad, and how has it improved? For months, I've been advocating a tiered system similar to the men's singles division and the men's tag division. I had been hoping that we could attract some big names from Impact or potentially WWE. I still think we might attract some big names from WWE, but we're pretty far removed from that. I was really hoping that we would be able to attract Su Yung, but Su Yung re-signed with Impact. But we got Serena Deeb, who was released from WWE on Black Wednesday. We've got Thunder Rosa on loan from NWA while they're on hiatus. Now that NWA is back, I don't know what the future looks like for Thunder Rosa and AEW. But in bringing such elite talents as Serena Deeb and Thunder Rosa, they have been able to elevate acts like Nyla Rose, Brit Baker, Hikaru Shida. As they've ascended, we've been able to raise the stakes for Allie, Red Velvet, Jade Cargill, Tainara, Conti, Anna Jay, Big Swole. And from there, we've been able to hire some of the talents that appear on Dark. In creating a tiered system like that, you've been able to create a hierarchy that would allow for combinations to fit at any place in the card. And it doesn't stop there. This tiered system is constantly improving, and it will continue to improve with the introduction of talents such as Thea Trinidad. And I know that Jordan Grace's contract with Impact is coming up. It'll be interesting to see whether she stays there or moves to AEW or NXT. We've had several events that have allowed for this upward mobility to exist. We start with the Deadly Draw Tag Tournament. There wasn't much to this. It was very experimental, especially with the idea that talents were blindly drawing to secure their matchups. But it served as an example that the women can carry an event like this on their own. And that set the stage for an even bigger success in the form of the Women's Title Eliminator Tournament. Now, the Women's Title Eliminator Tournament was broken into halves, with one bracket taking place in the United States and the other taking place in Japan. The US bracket was filled with the top talent signed to AEW in the United States, and the Japanese bracket was completely assembled by Hikaru Shida, and everything that went into that was organized and booked by Hikaru Shida. In fact, the entire tournament was done at the suggestion of Hikaru Shida. And in my opinion, it is not the most important part in legitimizing the women's division, but it was the first big step to get us to where we are now. The Women's Title Eliminator was unpredictable in the best possible way. It served to completely reheat Nyla Rose. The Japanese side of the bracket introduced us to Veni, Mei Saruga, Rin Kudokura, and Maki Ito. The next big step in improving AEW's women's division was the reintroduction of the Joshi talent. Now, we've already covered the Japanese bracket of the Women's Title Eliminator Tournament, but we have not yet touched on the fact that Rio returned to America and competed in the United States bracket of the Women's Title Eliminator Tournament. And the winner of the Japanese bracket, Ryo Mizunami, returned to America, and I believe she's here long term. Kenny Omega's goal with the AEW women's division was similar to that of WCW's cruiserweight division. He wanted to take a flourishing style that's overlooked by the US market and put it on national television. In WCW, the luchadors were often the most exciting part of the show. And if you've seen Stardom or Tokyo Joshi Pro, you'll know exactly how exciting Joshi Puro can be. Unfortunately, having such a reliance on foreign talent left AEW's women's division particularly thin in the wake of COVID. With the end finally in sight, and the introduction and reintroduction of both Maki Ito and Ryo Mizunami, Kenny Omega's vision can finally begin to take shape once again. Along with the return of the Joshis, we had the long-awaited debut of Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill reminds me a lot of Bianca Belair, both incredibly talented, if inexperienced wrestlers with unparalleled presence and near limitless potential. Now, obviously, at this point, Bianca Belair is a lot more experienced than Jade Cargill. But with everything that Bianca's accomplished, you could see just how much potential Jade Cargill has if given the proper attention. And with Jade's first program, an immediate feud with Brandi, and her debut match alongside Shaq against Cody and Red Velvet, it seems pretty apparent that AEW is keenly aware of what they're working with. And finally, what this entire video is all about. If you haven't seen the lights out unsanctioned match between Brit Baker and Thunder Rosa, run, don't walk. This match is a triumph. For months now, Thunder Rosa has graced AEW with her presence, while her home promotion of NWA has been on hiatus. One person who hasn't been pleased with Thunder Rosa's presence has been Brit Baker. Ever since returning from injury, Brit Baker has been clawing at Thunder Rosa, trying to get her spotlight back. Everything about this match was phenomenal. The psychology, the storytelling, the sheer excitement. One thing that particularly stood out to me was the counter from the lockjaw into the thumbtacks. Thunder Rosa was keenly aware that in a lights-out, unsanctioned, no disqualification match, there are no rope breaks. So when Brit Baker locked in her lockjaw, that, to the best of my knowledge, nobody has ever broken out of, she knew that there was no way she could get her foot on the ropes and have Britt let go. So the only option at her disposal was to roll Brit Baker back first into the thumbtacks. And of course, Brit Baker immediately let up. Upon rewatch, I noticed things that I missed the first time because I was just so in awe of everything. Rebel's bump onto the table was flawless. Thunder Rosa's rearranging of the chairs, knowing full well that she was going to have to take a superplex into them, she flipped all of the chairs so that they were seat side up. Brilliant. Thunder Rosa is a professional. The reason I feel so strongly about this match is because not only did these women earn the main event, but they did so without the involvement of a championship. Not the NWA championship, not the AEW championship. They scratched and clawed and earned this match just on the sheer merit of their work. It gives me confidence for the division as a whole that this kind of work won't go unrecognized. That these women can have a storyline apart from the mandatory title program to get themselves into a spot that matters. And if they can do it, then the other women who have already been elevated by this division and continue to be elevated by this division will get to the same place based on their merit. And it further gives me confidence in this division that we can simultaneously have a women's title eliminator tournament. We can have Jade Cargill and Shaq versus Cody and Red Velvet. And we can have a bubbling feud between Brit Baker and Thunder Rosa that results in a main event blow-off match. We've already come so far, and it really seems like there's nowhere to go but up. We're going to continue adding incredibly talented women to this division. We're going to continue giving important slots to this division. We're going to give them our rollover slots on Dynamite. We are going to give them opening match slots on Dynamite. Of course, it'll never be 50-50 with the men and the women. But with AEW, you're really looking at three divisions. If you can get 40 minutes of the show devoted to the women, 40 to the tag teams, and 40 to the men's singles division, you've really achieved divisional parity. And I think we're not far off from that. The next step is to get 2 women's matches per Dynamite. And that's going to be a lot easier when we have a deeper roster. But with the successes that have been coming with AEW's women's division, I believe that it will be a much more enticing prospect as it is now than it was in months past. So when we do have talented women becoming free agents, it won't be such a cut and dry decision between Impact or NXT. It feels really good. I've been so desperate for this division to be strong that it just fills me with so much joy to be able to sit here today and gush about it. Anyway, thank you for watching. Today I'm going to ask you to comment which women you would like to see in AEW's women's division. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and praise the Graps.